introduce our second speaker for our breakout session today, Miss SYLVIA FOO. So she is a senior lecturer with our DAS Academy. She has more than 2 decades of experience as a specialist in dyslexia, literacy, and English language teaching in various educational institutes, including MOE schools and the DAS. She was a senior lecturer in the early years of the training arm of the DAS. She holds a Masters of Arts in the English language and a diploma in education from NIE. She's also trained in the Orton, Gillingham, and Hornsby approaches to dyslexia remediation, and is a qualified trainer with the WSQ Advanced Certificate in Training and Assessment. She has trained and mentored many teachers and parents in language and literacy support for SEN learners. She's very interested in designing and delivering training courses that enhance best practices in educational therapy. So this has led her to design new certificate courses in IEP planning for SpLD learners, teaching morphology, and supporting at-risk preschoolers in literacy. So I'm going to invite SYLVIA FOO to share with us the power of morphological awareness instruction, developing greater access to unfamiliar words for all students.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm the last session for the day, so it's been a busy day for everybody. And I really hope you end off the first day of the Unite conference on a high note by learning how morphological awareness can help all learners to access unfamiliar words. I believe that you've got your slides, yes? And you also have a set of handouts also as well, right? Okay. Okay, so here are my session outcomes. I hope that at the end of this session, you will understand more about morphological awareness, its importance in building up access to unfamiliar words, and how to conduct some very simple morphological awareness activities that can be done in specialist intervention or adapted to mainstream classroom teaching. Okay, we will begin by reviewing what are morphemes. So morphemes are the smallest unit of meaning. And so the primary function of morphemes is actually to convey or carry meaning. So there are 3 types of morphemes, namely your prefix, your roots, and your suffixes. All right, and so if we look at this word inspector, we can see that it's made up of the prefix in, which means in or into. It is made up of the root spect, which means look and see, and it's made up of the suffix which means one who. So actually an inspector is one who looks very closely or sees closely. Now it's very interesting that most English words are actually polysyllabic. And they actually contain prefixes and suffixes that can help to extend and expand the meaning of the base element of the word or the root. So if we look at the word, if we look at the root spect, you can see that if we add the word inspection, then we're actually extending, all right? Okay, the root spect. Now, the title of this workshop is about morphological awareness. So what exactly is morphological awareness? So these are 2 definitions, okay? One is by Wolter and Collins, and the other one is by Ramirez. Basically, according to these researchers, morphological awareness is the ability to study the morphemes in words. And as you study the morphemes in words, that leads you to access the meaning of unfamiliar words. So in other words, when you're talking about morphological awareness, you're actually talking about looking at words and examining the meaning of words in very close detail. Okay? Now, what happens is this is an example of how students can actually apply MA knowledge by using unfamiliar base words, all right, and suffixes to infer the meanings of unfamiliar words. All right, so let's look at the example. You can see here that what is a magician? A magician is someone who works with magic. And so if you look at the suffix "en," it actually means person. And so therefore you can apply it to the word dietitian, because at the end of the day, what is a dietitian? A dietitian is a person who works with diets. So this is an example whereby a student can apply his knowledge of this suffix, all right, okay, to another word which contains that suffix. Okay? All right, now, why is morphological awareness so important? Okay, so why are we interested in morphological awareness? It's because if you look at research, a lot of research has actually indicated that language and literacy development is strongly impacted, all right, by morphological awareness. Now, due to the shortage of time this afternoon, I'm gonna concentrate specifically more upon how morphological awareness actually contributes to vocabulary acquisition and in turn reading comprehension. Now, why do we need to concentrate on improving our students' vocabulary base? Anyone? There are many teachers or educators in this room. Yes? Right? So why do we want to concentrate on improving our students' vocabulary base? Anybody? Yes? Very good. Well done. Okay, so at the end of the day, all right, we have to remember that decoding or learning to read is just the very basic level of accessing text. And what happens is this, of course, we do have students, okay, for example, who have dyslexia and so or an SpLD, which therefore prevents them or hampers their ability to read easily. So that is why they come to us, for example, the DAS or other agencies, to actually receive intervention to help them with their reading ability. But what happens is this, is that if we look at the profile of our students, dyslexic children or dyslexic learners tend not to read widely. Okay, and because they tend not to read widely, therefore their vocabulary levels are down. Also, we also have to look at what's happening in many of our mainstream neighborhood schools. We have a fair number of students who come from English as second language backgrounds, and as a result of which they may not read or maybe not be exposed to as many English words as possible. And so what happens is this, is that at the DAS, we not only teach our students how to read and to spell better, but we also teach morphology also as part of our intervention program, because we believe that this will help them to build up their vocabulary. And consequently, what will happen is this, is that they will improve in their reading comprehension. I'd like to draw your attention to here. All right, this point is that morphologically complex words make up 60% of English academic vocabulary found in school reading passages. So this means that therefore all the more it is crucial for students to receive some element of morphology instruction, morphological awareness building, so that they will be better able to actually understand, all right, or access meanings of unfamiliar words. Okay, and what will happen is this, is that the research actually indicates that morphological awareness has a very special impact on improving vocabulary knowledge and consequently reading comprehension. But the issue is that many students with dyslexia or with an SpLD or with English as a second language backgrounds, they tend to have deficits or problems with their morphological awareness. So therefore, research also indicates that it's great, because once you introduce morphological awareness instruction, it becomes beneficial for all students, particularly those who have SpLD, learning difficulties, and also they are from English as a second language background. So having understood about the importance of morphological awareness instruction and how it's actually linked to vocabulary and reading comprehension, let's look at this question of when can we start doing morphological awareness instruction. And this is where we look at the work of Green and Wolter. This is the morphological development of typical learners. And you can see that the best ages to start is between 3 and 5, because there's a massive growth in their morphological knowledge. Okay? But this is not to say that we are going to have to wait until grades 3 and 5 to start, because you can actually start as early as the preschool stage. And what will happen is it's very interesting, because preschoolers, what they can do is that they can already start to coin words. I've listened to preschoolers before, and what they do is that they don't say chef, they say cooker. Why do they say cooker? What have they done? What have they done? They have actually generalized, right? So if a teacher is a person who teaches, so therefore a cooker is a person who cooks. Okay? And so this tells you that they can actually kind of like start to generalize and start to apply rules, even if those rules are applied, not correctly. And so for morphological awareness instruction that takes place, okay, at the preschool level, it can be tied more to their oral language vocabulary, okay, rather than their written language work, because at this stage their reading may not be so up to par. They're just learning how to read. And so you can always start by actually giving them what we call, or teaching them what we call very common and simple prefixes and suffixes, like for example, an, because this is associated with being unhappy and being, they always say teacher or mummy has been unfair, right? Correct? That's part of their vocabulary, okay? And also a common suffix that you can also introduce to them would be the plural suffix, because that's part of their daily life, okay? Pencils, dogs, cats, all right? Okay, and also the past tense suffix ed, because they'll be exposed to stories being read to them, all right? Okay, so this is just a sample of the vocabulary teaching that is done at the DAS, and this is for a P4 and P5 class, okay, and this is where the prefix D has been introduced to them, and this is also in a sample worksheet as well. So I'd like to thank Melchior for sharing this with me. All right, so what is your framework then for morphological awareness instruction? Okay, so again, let's go back to the experts. Let's go back to research. All right, and so the key in MA intervention is to help students to understand that active reflection on meaning and the corresponding parts in words is what will help them to read and write better. So in other words, what happens is that the key to MA instruction, all right, or the key to morphological awareness instruction is to let them actively reflect on the meanings of words and how the corresponding morphemes have actually contributed to that meaning of that word. And I like to refer you to, all right, the work of, Bowman, Font, Edwards, and Boland. What has happened is that they have come up with a very nice and neat word part or morpheme clues, kind of like structure to derive the meaning of word parts. So you could see here the example is inflexible. And so if you look, the first step is, first of all, look for the root, because the root is, all right, the root is the base from which all words, will develop or extend. And so what does it mean? So flex means bend. Then the next step is to look for a prefix. And what does it mean? So in means not, okay? Then you need to look for a suffix. What does it mean? Able, which means able to. And then what do? Is you put the meanings of the morphemes all together. Inflexible means not able to bend. Okay, so this is a very nice step-by-step approach. But if, let's say, for example, the word doesn't have a prefix, then you can, of course, miss out step 2. If the word doesn't have a suffix, you can therefore miss out step 3. All right, so this is quite a nice and neat way of using word part or morpheme clues to derive word meaning. All right, and so this is another example. All right, okay. So what are types of MA activities, or what are types of morphological awareness activities? So this is the first thing that you all must do. All right, the previous steps that I showed you, all right, okay, we'll go back, sorry, okay. This is not possible, all right, without explicit teaching of morphemes. So that is the first thing that has to be done. So you need to deliberately teach the meanings of prefixes, suffixes, and roots. And after that, what you need to do is you need to have lots of activities which give them practice in identifying these prefixes, suffixes, and roots that you have taught them in various words. Okay? And I believe that you have been given a set of handouts. I'd like to refer you to that. Okay, so the first one is a list of common prefixes, suffixes, and roots in academic texts. Okay, all right. And what will happen, and this is from this website by CDL, okay? And the next handout is actually one which is very useful, I feel, because what it does is that it gives you common content area roots and affixes. So in other words, what it does is that it gives you some examples of words from science, from social studies, and from math that contain common prefixes, suffixes, and roots. All right? And I think this is good because this is all part of our way of, it's not just language teachers who are responsible for teaching morphology, but also other subject teachers also as well can highlight common prefixes, suffixes, and roots in the words that that come, they encounter in what we call in their textbooks or in their subject areas. All right. Now these two websites, the second website is pretty good because it also gives some sample lesson plans for teaching specific morphemes. All right. Now, in addition to teaching specifically the meanings of prefixes, suffixes, and roots, it's also important or necessary to explore how suffixes indicate the part of speech of words. So you will see that from this slide that your suffixes can actually be divided into, into suffixes that actually indicate nouns or adjectives, adverbs, or verbs. And so these grammatical clues can also be very helpful in helping the students to access the meaning of unfamiliar words. So I'll give you an example. So for example, we all know that angel is a noun, but the moment that you add the ik suffix, you create an adjective angelic, okay? Which actually means that, you're like an angel, okay? All right, now, I think I've been talking too much. It's time for you to do some work, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is, your first activity is, okay, I would like you to underline the roots in these words, or you can circle the roots in these words, okay? Due to shortage of time, we will not be able to do the second part of this activity, but this is a sample activity that you can do with your students. Now, you can always refer to, all right, a handout on common prefixes, suffixes, and roots to help you along, okay? All right, now you have 2 minutes, because we're always running out of time, okay? So 2 minutes, please, for you to try to underline or circle the roots in these words. Okay. Now, this is an example of a game a game board that actually you can create to give students practice in identifying the prefixes and suffixes in words. I've included in the procedure and actually what you can do or how you can create this game board. And there are plenty of printable game board templates which are available online, and they're all free also as well. Now, if you're a teacher in mainstream school, and even if you're not teaching English or another subject area, you can actually like to choose words from your subject areas for this game board, okay, from this board game. All right, so it's your typical like snakes and ladders, but they have various task cards which gets them to identify the prefix or the suffix in the word and getting them to actually think about how that suffix contributes to the meaning of the word or the prefix contributes to the meaning of the word. Okay? Okay, now, just now we talked about the first type of MA activity is to deliberately teach prefixes, suffixes, and roots. And what's the next? And what is it that you have to do? You've got to give them lots of activities to identify, right? Those prefixes, suffixes, and roots that you've taught to them. Okay. Now the next thing is what we call word segmentation. All right. This is another type of MA activity, and what are learners supposed to do? They are supposed to identify each of the morphemes, okay, in the list of words. All right, and later on, they can actually use the steps that we had in the earlier sets of slides, okay, about how you can then systematically derive the meanings of these unfamiliar words. So again, you've got something to do. Now I want you to identify all the morphemes in these words. Yeah, okay, all right. And so this is an example of a word segmentation exercise. So you have 3 minutes to segment these words into its prefix, suffix, or root. Okay? I think some of you tired already. And you're going to find if you look at the word dislocate, because, all right, how do these 3 morphemes contribute to the meaning? So dis means away, all right, and that's the prefix. The root is lock, which means position or place, and then ate means to become. All right. So when you dislocate something, okay, something moves, it becomes moved from its place. So this is how you can see the morphemes contribute to the meaning of the word. All right. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. So let's do the next one. Okay. Word sorts is a third type of MA activity. And they are given some, all right, and students are given some multi-morphemic words, and they need to examine them and get them, and you get to get the students to sort them according to either their prefixes, suffixes, or roots. And in fact, you can get more able students to decide how they want to sort these words, okay? And then they can explain how they chose to sort the words. So if we look here, you've got this set of words, okay? Now, which prefix, suffix, and root could you sort these words into? What do you all think? Which prefix, suffix, or root could you sort these words into? Okay. All right. Samun, you said con. Yeah, absolutely. Very good. Any others? Anybody else? Shen, good. The suffix shen, which means act or process. Okay, con is a prefix which means to, with, or together. And what is another one that you could, what is the root that you can sort it? Taut, right? Which means to twist. Okay, all right, good job. Okay, and then after sorting, then again, you could get them to examine the words and see how, okay, the various components, morphemes contribute to the meaning. Then you have word building. All right, okay, students will be given prefixes, suffixes, and roots to create real multi-morphemic words. And some of these morphemes can be actually written on cards or large pieces of Lego. And what you want to do is you want them to get them to build the words. Okay, and so the Lego and the cards is quite good because of the physical manipulation. But you need to set a time limit, because if not, they will go on and on and on. And what will happen is the time limit can be like a challenge like that. And it can foster competition among your groups of students also as well. And then, of course, after, what we call building the words, they can always kind of like, again, do the exercise where they see how it all contributes to what we call the meaning of words. And then another way that you can actually build words is by having matrices. Okay, so in consisting of the prefixes, suffixes, and a root that you have already taught. So this is from the work of Peter Bowers, and you can include a recording sheet for the students to write down the real words that they have created. And so, for example, okay, all right, they can build the word construct, all right, okay, then they can build the word constructed and constructs. Okay, so we don't have much time, but what I want you to do is just take maybe about 1 minute and try to see how many words, real words, you can build using this matrix. Okay, so you've got the root here, and you've got your various what we call prefixes and your suffixes. Okay, so you have 1 minute to build as many words as possible. Okay, all right, using that matrix which you have what we call I put on the previous slide. Okay, so anybody wants to volunteer? Give me at least one. Okay. Huh? Okay. Pardon? Okay, all right. Okay, let's start off with those which have the have the prefix pre? Any? Precede. Very good. Okay. All right. What about the prefix re? Reject. Well done. Anything else? Remit. Yes. React. Very good. Retract. Yes. And the thing that we all fear in our lives, recede, as in a receding hairline. Correct? Yes. Okay, I know. When I look back at my father, when he married my mother, had a nice, full, a lot of hair, but, now it's gone. Okay. All right, now, what about con? Contract, very good. Concede, excellent. Well, okay. And there's another one where you conject something, right? Yeah, you conject something. So in other words, you think up of something. Yeah? All right. Okay, what about X? Extract, very good. Exact, yeah. Okay, all right, yeah. Anything else? Okay. Yes, exceed, yeah. What about this? Distract, yeah. Any others? This? Dismiss, good job. Disrupt, yes. Okay, so you can see how it comes. The activity is carried out. Okay, I'm sorry we have to move on. All right, yeah. Okay, now the next thing is word relatives, which is similar to word building, except that what happens is that you're not going to give the prefixes and the suffixes. You're only going to give the root or a prefix, okay, or a suffix, okay? And what you do is actually you have what we call a word web graphic organizer, and you put the root, the prefix in the middle, or even the suffix, and then you get the students to generate words which have that meaning. Okay, or which are connected to that particular root. So these are two examples here. So okay, let's look at pot, all right, which means to carry. So what is the meaning of report? Well, you're carrying back something, right? Yeah. So you report back to your bosses, or that's what a reporter does, right? Okay. And what about export? What are you doing? Out, right? You're carrying something out of the country, yeah? Okay, and what is a porter? Right. Yes, somebody who helps you to carry your luggage, etc. All right, so getting your students to generate words which have the same root helps them to be very aware of how the meanings of words are actually very connected because they share the same root. Okay, and so this is another one where you use the prefix, common prefix against, right? Okay, now what happens is this is another activity for you all to do, okay? Now, let's pretend that you have already gotten your class, or you've already generated a couple of words with this root, vid, which actually means to see, all right? Which means to see. So how will you explain how this root contributes to the meaning of these words? And so what's your task? Okay? And what you do is you have to work with the person beside you, okay? And you want you to take turns, okay, to choose one word and explain how that root actually influences the meaning. Okay, so you got to explain to the person, okay? Just choose one. Okay, just choose one word. So, okay, I'll start off. So, for example, like a visor. What's a visor? It's what you have on the helmet, right? So, what does a visor do? It stops you from seeing, right? Okay, so you can't use visor anymore. So, work with the person beside you, all right? Or you can work in groups of 3 to try and take turns to explain how this root contributes to the meaning of the word. Okay? Okay, everybody all right? Okay, I'll just do what we call 1, or I'll do 2, okay, to show how it connects together. Now let's look at the word advise. Now how does the root vis or vid contribute to the meaning of the word? Okay, advise is when you see something and you need to give your opinion so that it will be better. That's how it adds together, right? Okay, so you see something and therefore you find that you've got an opinion about whether it's good or not so good or how it can be better, so that's where you give your opinion. What about improvise? Now, improvise comes about when you did not see ahead, all right, what you needed. So therefore, you've got to make do with what you have now. Okay? So that's how, all right, you did not see ahead, all right, of what you needed, etc. And so therefore, you need to make do now. Okay? So that's how the root vis or vid contributes to improvise. Okay? All right, so you can do exercises like this. Finally, the last type of activity is the word hunt. And basically, if you look at all the other previous activities, we were looking at actually single word level. And then now for a word hunt, what you're doing is you're going back to text level, for example, a comprehension text. And what you simply do is that you, in a word hunt, you identify a couple of prefixes or roots which you want your students, you've been teaching your students, and so what you want them to do is you want them to actively look in that comprehension passage or that reading text, okay, for words which have those specific roots or prefixes that you've already taught them. Of course, you cannot, make them hunt for everything, so you've got to be very specific about the prefixes and the roots, okay, that you want to concentrate on. All right, and then after they have highlighted those words or they have, listed those words down, go back to the steps by Bowman. Again, the whole idea about step 1, look for the root, what is its meaning. Step 2, the prefix, what's its meaning, etc. Okay? All right, and finally, this is a suggestion that I have for adaptation to mainstream schools. This is where you need to embed morphological awareness instruction in content areas. So, for example, let's look at the word hypothermic, which can be found in science texts. And so it's basically getting the students to understand the meaning of this word by, again, breaking it down into its component morphemes. And it's good to actually have a common morpheme chart. Okay, I think you can read this slide on your own. This is an example of a common morpheme chart, or sample common morpheme chart, where you are emphasizing, for example, on the root equi, which means equal. And you can see that you get the students to record down, or you help them to record down on a common morpheme chart in the classroom what are words that they're coming across in their various subject areas, which have this morpheme, okay, which have this root equi. So this kind of like you are trying to reinforce that particular meaning of that root, okay, all the time. All right? And this is the last activity that I'd like you to try. This is where you can talk about, this is using the prefix sub, which means meaning and below. So what I want you to do is just see whether you can generate some words from science, humanities, or social studies, or math, which actually has this prefix sub in it. All right, give you a minute. All right. Okay, what about for math? What's a very common word? Subtract. Very good. Any other word? Pardon? Subdivide. Very good. Right? I didn't put that one down, but have you all heard of subsets before? Ah, yeah, right. Okay. What about humanities or social studies? What do y'all think? Pardon? Substandard conditions. Yes, right. Okay. Pardon? Substantiate. Yeah, right. Or substantial also as well. Yeah. Okay. Any others? All right. Yeah? Okay, for geography, have you all heard of subcontinent? Ah, right, okay, all right. Okay, and what about for science? Submerged, submarine, right? Pardon? Substance, yeah? All right, yeah. Sorry, my hearing's not very good too. Okay, this is it. This is an example. Okay, take picture, take picture. All right, so these are some examples, okay? Please add in those that you mentioned, okay? All right, or were mentioned. All right, subtract, subdivide, subset. Okay, so, right, okay, so, all right. Again, you will see that these are words that we come across, but we may not kind of like, it may not like come to our awareness that, hey, there's actually, the what we call, that deliberate, pointing out that there is that particular prefix. All right? Okay? Great. Okay, so I've actually come to the end of my presentation. What I've did is the last few slides are actually of some useful resources and websites for conducting MA activities. Do look at them for more ideas in conducting MA activities due to the, 45 minutes is just about all that we can do. So these are really useful websites. And I've also included some mobile apps also as well, because let's go with technology and see how we can influence, our students to be more interested in morphology and looking at the structure of words and also to increase their morphological awareness. I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we want our students to be more able to access the meanings of words, particularly in situations where they don't have a dictionary. This is specifically especially so in exam situations. All right. Thank you very much for listening. You've been very, you've been very participative. Thank you. Just remember, a little morphological awareness instruction goes a long way. All right, thank you for coming to my workshop. Thank you.